Do you like nice colorful games that feel good and raise your mood when you play them? If you do, what feelings you expect to have when finish them? If you said something like sadness, shock or anguish, it might be not as unexpected as you might think. Because there are quite wholesome looking, sometimes even cartoonish games that lure you in with lighthearted art style, bright palette and likable protagonists just to crush your soul in the end.
Hi, I am Not-a-witchr, but sometimes I wish I was one, because they are said to be rid of human emotions. And maybe then I would not be devastated after finishing these games that I'm about to share. This video is for you if you consider yourself a person with a fragile emotional constitution or just prefer not to be traumatized by your entertainment. Beware of heavy spoilers and be warned that you might be seriously upset by these games, if you ignore my warning.
If you've ever wondered how an action game without any violence would look like, wonder no more. The Creatures of Ava is a game about saving the creatures of a distant planet from the mysterious withering that's spreading to the grasslands and jungles and all other biomes. You play as Vic, an eagerly brave, adorably idealistic and distractingly sexy researcher with a tragic backstory. You are supposed to discover, photograph and save the animals of the planet by cleansing them from this beige infection, returning their colors to them, and then luring them to your evacuation bots that teleport unsuspecting beasts to the Ark, a spaceship on the orbit that is supposed to help discover the cure for the withering. You also have an ancient alien magic artifact that erupts a beam of energy to fight the infection and performs other neat tricks like levitating objects or slowing time. And also you have a friendly alien that calls themselves an archaeologist and helps you understand different tribes of Naam, the sentient locals that populate the planet. All parts of the game promise a good time and feels more Disney-like than some of the Disney films. Side quests are often purely comical, like helping the child of a local tribe's chief in their search for love and becoming a poet. But the main story also includes more serious themes, like uncovering corruption in the organization that you work for and which is supposed to help saving the creatures. But the eco-friendly cartoonish bliss that this game may look like is only a setup for the end of the game, when you eventually find out that the whole saving the creatures is a scam, and Vic have been actually unknowingly kidnapping poor beasts, only to be used in experiments possibly for pharmacological purposes and not for fighting the withering. Which by the end of the game has already spread to all parts of the planet and threatens to overcome the last village that shelters the helpless Naam, who actually look on the situation surprisingly nonchalantly and passively. Desperate to find the solution, our hero goes rogue and searches the ancient ruins of the previous civilization that has fallen to the withering. But there is no solution. That civilization did not find a way to prevent their demise and perished. Because, as you eventually find out, the planet Ava has this cycle of rebirth, in which all life forms must be periodically destroyed by the withering to be repurposed and serve as a substrate for new life. And all the locals accept it, understanding that it means that everybody will just stop existing as they are and return to Ava. And so you finish the game with the understanding that your actions have achieved nothing. Your own management have manipulated and used you for their own goals. All the new friends that you've made on the planet will soon die, and there is nothing you can do about it. Great. Just great. I'm staring at the end credits, and I can't help but imagine all the 8-year-olds crying after finishing the game, immediately growing up faced with the harsh reality and becoming goths, skipping all the previous stages. Seriously, this game's ending is worse than the Mass Effect 3 colors. Because in Mass Effect 3 your sacrifice at least achieved something. You've stopped the Reaper's cycle of destruction. And the Creatures of Ava will just continue their vicious cycle of composting, while Vic loses her job and probably becomes a sexy space pirate. At least let us have that. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is a simple but engaging adventure of, you guessed it, two brothers on a quest to find the cure for their ill father. The original game came out in 2013, and this year we got the unexpected remake with better graphics, which actually seems more like just a remaster, because all other aspects are the same as 10 years ago, but that's not important. The game features quite simple but unusual gameplay, because you control both brothers by the sticks of your gamepad, and it takes some getting used to. But when you get there, you can really enjoy the vibrant fantasy world and curious puzzles for your left and right hand coordination that are the main part of the game. The story starts with quite some sadness, when literally the first scene you see is the younger brother crying before the tombstone of their mother and remembering how she died in the storm, though they probably didn't even get to bury her body. Soon after that, you learn that the father of the two titular boys is very ill and needs to be taken to the healer. The healer does not give us a specific diagnosis, but instead shows us a scroll with presumably some mysterious and maybe magical cure that needs to be found to save the dying father. You know, like your regular gerontologist. Here you might think that this is the worst part of the story and everything can only go up from here, and boy would you be wrong. I mean, the whole game is quite nice. The brothers have real adventures, encounter many dangers and overcome scary and complicated obstacles in creative ways, which only strengthens the bond between the brothers. But the real reason why the game is included in this list is at the very end of the story. Save the best for last, and then it will last a long time. Not a very commonly known saying, or at all. So, at the very end of your journey, the older brother gets wounded in the chest by the horrible and probably poisonous Spider-Woman monster. And then, by some incredible luck or fate, you fall underground right beneath what must be the Tree of Life from that scroll, and the younger brother climbs its branches to get to the top, to the very source of the water of life, and fills a little bottle with this magic fluid. Then he rushes down to his dying brother to give him the cure, only to find the breathless corpse, and to realize that it's too late, or maybe it wouldn't even matter. The older brother is dead, and you failed as a player, or at least it feels that way. Then, to make you feel even cringier, the game not only shows you a cutscene of the younger brother digging the grave for the older one, but forces you, the player, to carry his corpse into the grave and then to fill it with soil by your own hands. After a job well done, feeling pride for your achievement, you are given the fast way back to your home village, where you must go through the storm to the healer's house and deliver the cure for your father, which at this point you don't even expect to work. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised anyway. But your father gets better, and the last cutscene shows us the father and his last son standing before now 2 empty graves, with sad faces, and then the father bursts into tears and falls to the ground, feeling guilt because he failed to protect his children and is now alive only because of his first son's sacrifice, and every parent's worst nightmare. A meaningful journey has come to an end, and where you had only 1 empty grave, now you have 2. The game is rated T, meaning that children younger than teens are not recommended to play it. But I can easily imagine a mistake that some parents could make judging the game by its fairy tale-ish art style and missing the warning at the very start. I mean, I was in my 30s when I first played the original game, and I cannot remember any other game that crushed me emotionally this much. Except that one other game. You may not be a weirdo like me who played the first Life is Strange game, loved it, then missed the second game when it started coming out in episodes, years later stumbled upon Life is Strange True Colors, played it, loved it arguably even more than the first one, and only after that decided to play Life is Strange 2, craving for that warm, sweet sadness atmosphere with amazing indie soundtrack. You don't have to make the same mistake I did. because Life is Strange 2 may look like it's a similar experience, but in fact it's one of the most cruel and brutal stories in gaming, closer to a psychological horror genre rather than a coming-of-age interactive adventure with supernatural elements that it tries to pass for. Okay, maybe I'm overreacting. Let me explain myself. In this game, you play as 16-year-old Sean Diaz, who has a 9-year-old brother Daniel, and these two boys are raised by a single father to whom a very bad thing happens at the beginning of the game. Yep, very similar to Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, but in so many ways worse. Let's start with the fact that the father dies being shot by a racist cop right in front of the two boys. At the same moment, a supernatural part of the plot begins when Daniel bursts into telekinetic rage, killing the cop and wrecking the environment before passing out and later losing any memory of these events. Sean panics, grabs his brother and just runs out of town, later deciding to go from Seattle to their father's hometown of Puerto Lobos in Mexico, while being chased by the police as cop killers. And after that, as if it was not enough, the brothers get so much shit from life that I would never be able to imagine that when I started the game. During their travels, Sean gets imprisoned and beaten by a racist gas station owner. The gas station is okay, I guess. The owner is the one who is crazy. Boys spend November in an abandoned cabin in the woods, which leads to Daniel getting seriously sick. They befriend a puppy, which later gets eaten by a cougar right in front of Daniel, who then kills the cougar by his newly discovered abilities. They get a job at a cannabis farm run by some criminals, where Daniel shows his abilities to their new friends and gets convinced to steal the money from the farm's owner's safe. During the heist, Daniel gets shot and loses control of his powers, destroying the place, which results in a piece of glass stuck in Sean's eye. Sean wakes up in a hospital after 2 months in a coma, without one eye and under the FBI's custody, having no idea where Daniel is. Daniel gets taken to a religious cult that uses his powers to convert more followers. Trying to find his brother, Sean gets beaten and humiliated by some hillbillies because they think that he's Mexican and a thief. Eventually, the two brothers arrive to the Mexican border, which is separated by a gigantic metallic wall. And here we learn that everything is happening in that horrible alternative universe where the wet dream of Donald Trump comes true, which is one of the most terrifying things in the game. Trying to cross the wall by opening it with Daniel's powers, brothers get attacked by a couple of Trump-loving vigilantes. Daniel gets shot from a sniper rifle and then everybody is taken by the local police. Daniel uses his powers to break them out, wreaking havoc all around, and then try to cross the border, which is blockaded by the FBI and Border Patrol. In the decisive moment, brothers face the last choice to break through or to surrender, and this moment is the only one in the game where your previous choices matter. That's right. From the very beginning, the game repeatedly tells you that Daniel will remember everything his brother does or says, and that your choices will have consequences, but at the same time, everything I listed above will happen no matter what, and there is nothing you can do to avoid it or change it. The only real variable in the game is this last moment where the brothers decide what to do. And there are several possible endings, each one worse than the other. If the brothers' bond is strong and Daniel's morality is low, they break through and live in Mexico using Daniel's powers as career criminals. If the bond is strong but Daniel's morality is high, he will refuse to go, but helps Sean break through and surrenders, which result in separation of the brothers, Sean becoming a criminal in Mexico and Daniel living under surveillance with an ankle monitor. If Sean surrenders but Daniel does not, he will take the matters into his own hands, and then Sean gets killed when they break through and Daniel grows up in Mexico alone, doing, yep, you guessed it, crime with his abilities. If the brothers both agree and surrender, then Sean goes to prison for 15 years, Daniel lives with an ankle monitor, and the brothers reunite after Sean is released, and they go for a trip to the same spot where their journey began, and Sean breaks into tears, and how is any of that is a good ending? The game practically says it does not matter if you got supernatural powers. If you live in a world where Trump has built his wall, you're f***ed anyway. And after the boys have been discriminated, hated, beaten, shot, mutilated, and traumatized in any conceivable way, except maybe for sexual violence, the feeling that I was left with is devastation, frustration, hate, disgust, and shame for being a human. Quite the opposite of what I've hoped I would feel after completing Life is Strange 2. How strange of me.
Well, that's my 3 games that at first glance looked like some good time and ended up completely different. If you've had similar experience with any other game, please do share in the comments. I will empathize. So thank you for watching. Consider subscribing if you like videos like this. I'm still Not-a-witchr, and as always, take care and farewell.